Senator Susan Collins questioned the Secretary of the Army yesterday on Capitol Hill regarding investigations into the mass shootings in Lewiston last year. During an appropriations hearing, Collins asked Secretary of the Army Christine Wormuth why the results of the review by the Army Reserve and the investigation by the Inspector General are not being released. The shooter was an Army reservist. Family members and others have been critical of the Army for not getting him the help he needed before the shootings.
Certainly. And Senator, first of all, I would say, my heart goes out to all of the families in Maine that lost people and that were affected by the terrible shooting. It was truly tragic. You will be able to expect, I think, the Army Reserve investigation in a couple more weeks. It has been, as we talked about, very comprehensive. There are over, I think, 3,000 pages of interviews with witnesses and documents that they've collected, which is partly why it's taken so long, but it should be done in a couple more weeks. And then I think the separate review being done by our Army Inspector General will follow shortly after that.
The independent commission investigating the shootings will reconvene in Lewiston on Friday.